Toxic Superfoods, Sally K. Norton, MPH, Master of Public Health. How oxalate overload is making you sick and how to get better. So I looked in the front of the book at the table of contents. And first of all, let me say this, that, excuse me, she's got a doctor and a PhD and a PhD and a PhD and authors, another doctor, but I don't know if it's an MD or a PhD. We'd have to find that out. But anyway, nobody here says that they're from the CDC or from Mayo Clinic or anything like that. And that's one of the things I noticed with Robert O. Young, who wrote The pH Miracle. He used people from the CDC and from Mayo Clinic and people who were psychiatrists who worked with autistic children and had a PhD in nutrition, and they were psychiatrists and an MD. So it's like, I'd like to find out about these people too. But one of the things I noticed about the book, it's published by Rodale, New York, and it was just published in 2023, which is this year. So what I wanted to talk about is this. All right, so how oxalates harm, and that is 160 pages, how oxalates harm. And I once had a book called You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. Well, over 100 pages of this book, You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought, talked about what negative thinking is. And so that's the beginning of the book. You had to plow through over 100 pages on negative thinking and what it was. And it's like, cut to the chase. Figure out how to make something not so negative. So this right here is from 173 to 270. So it's only 100 pages of what could help and what could change your oxalate health. And this part over here is just the negativity, all the bad stuff. And in a way that's good, because there's at least 4 pages of a list of foods that have high oxalate. And she doesn't go into as much as the Harvard list or the nephrology list, which nephrology is your kidneys. And, there are other lists that are pertaining to oxalates, because oxalates are famous for kidney disease. So, if you read the book, which you will, I've read parts of it. I haven't read every single word of it. I've listened to about 5 or 6 hours of Ms. Norton talk about things like, the worst offenders and what it's like to have withdrawal and your oxalates overloading and dumping, and a lot of symptoms that can come from that. Well, I have this set up here, assessing your oxalate health, and like I said, this is chapter 12, and it is 74, 70. So this is 73. This is 72, 71. So that, a few pages that you can write on because they're kind of empty. But she talks about all of this. I'm not giving anything away that she hasn't talked about in her interviews. She's had maybe 14 interviews online since last year. And so she talks about a lot of things that are good for your health. and vitamins and things like that. And I just want to tell you that one of the things that is really major in this book is that if you're going to measure the oxalates in your diet, you're going to have to get a food scale, because the food that she includes weight. That gram thing right there, that's weight. It has weight at the very top of the list, weight. And so you have to measure your food by weight to find out how many oxalates you're eating. And that's really kind of important because, guessing is not scientific. It's just third grade. Because I remember in third grade we learned how to measure by weight. And we learned about gas, and we learned all about those kind of things to measure so that you could survive in life and know things and not be an ignoramus. But what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to tell you how many pages this book is. It's 366 pages. And I got the spiral bound because I thought, I'll use this every day. I'll take it to the grocery store and use the list to buy food. But I didn't see loads of food that was low in oxalates. And some of this may disagree with the oxalates in the Harvard list, which has 700 different foods that are high in oxalates, medium in oxalates, and low in oxalates. And of course, it seems like the more you eat, not the more you eat, but the more you look, there's more that has oxalates than not in this book and in some of the lists. So you just have to, figure it out. And then tied in with leptins, which that's a toxic food too. And there are scientists out there that discuss toxicity. And one of the things Ms. Norton mentions is that somebody with a houseplant tasted the houseplant and had to go into the ER because, actually ICU, because it almost killed them. And there was a reaction, and it was really very, very severe, and surprisingly severe. But there are foods, there are pretty plants that we buy for the inside of our house that are quite toxic. And maybe outside in our lawn and our yard and our garden, we have plants that are toxic that we wouldn't consider food, and yet if you get a leaf and you put it in your mouth, it might severely hurt you. So anyway, Sally K. Norton, and I would recommend buying this book. I bought it because I listened to her with several interviews, and I thought that there was a lot in here that was important. Whether or not it changes me or helps me, I don't know. If it will or not, time will tell. And that's my recommendation. 366 pages, and I believe this book is $30 because it has a spiral. Might have been on sale for $25. All right, thanks. Please like and share and subscribe. And make sure, if you think you might have kidney stones, or if you have eaten vegetarian or vegan for a long time, read this book because it might give you some ideas on what kind of oxalates and what kind of joint problems and other symptoms you might have from having too many oxalates.